Today, the Washington Commanders were in Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots in a joint practice session. And today on the Commanders Report, we've got my notes from that practice today. Now, before we get into the content here, make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we're going to be having our live watch party on Friday for the first preseason game for the Washington Commanders. It's our first watch party since the NFC Championship game all the way back in January at this point. It's going to be great to share that experience with you guys. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and join us on Friday night for our first watch party of the 2025 preseason right here on the Commanders Report. So we'll start today's practice report here with what Coach Q had to say before the practice even began, which is that no starters will play for the Washington Commanders on Friday. Obviously, Terry McLaurin is not under contract yet. Noah Brown's been dealing with an injury and didn't practice today. And there's some players that are banged up, but the players that are still healthy are not going to be playing on Friday. So expect a lot of reps from younger players and backups. That's just kind of the way that the Commanders are rolling. But guys, the joint practice is really what's important this week, in my opinion, specifically with the first team players that won't be playing on Friday. All right, this is really your opportunity to go up against another NFL defense where they're not really holding back any punches. That's usually what happens in preseason games, guys. Defenses usually play very vanilla, kind of base defenses, but in these joint practices, defensive coordinators are experimenting with things, trying to see what kind of disguises they can get away with, that sort of stuff. So these joint practices are actually more important for your first team offense than it is for any preseason game and any preseason action that they might get. So we'll start here with Jayden Daniels, who, according to a Boston Globe Patriots beat reporter, was quote-unquote surgical today. This comes from Ben Volin from the Boston Globe, says Jayden Daniels is absolutely surgical in 11 on 11, never misses a read. So the fact that, two of the Commanders' starting wide receivers were not on the practice field today, Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, the fact that Jayden Daniels was looking surgical against a New England Patriots defense today is certainly something that you want to see from your second-year quarterback that's looking to take yet another leap heading into his sophomore season. And honestly, guys, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Based on what we've heard from Jayden in training camp against the Commanders defense, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Even with a limited kind of weapons set, that he's doing a good job against the Patriots defense, guys, that is actually supposed to be pretty darn good this year. I think Mike Vrabel is a very good defensive coach. Now, apparently, a couple of their corners, their first-team corners, were not practicing today, so that certainly helped things out a little bit, but Jayden going through his reads quickly, finding his receivers, not the ball not hitting the ground all that often is something that we're accustomed to here in Washington at this point, and it's good to see that he's back to business as the QB1 of this football team. And if you guys want to get his jersey from our friends at Fanatics today, you guys can go chatsports.com/Daniels and pick up that jersey. That is the link down there in the comments and description of today's show, chatsports.com/Daniels. You guys can get the burgundy jersey, you can get the white jersey, you can get the black jersey. They all have it there, guys. So if you want a Jayden Daniels jersey in your collection for the start of the 2025 NFL season, you can go chatsports.com/Daniels. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. So the Jayden Daniels, Zach Ertz connection certainly seems to be back, as Ertz has had a really good week of practice leading up to this joint practice back in Ashburn, but he has translated that to the field where he was probably the number one true receiver for Jayden Daniels at this joint practice today, had multiple receptions. And, he's just so savvy. He's not the athlete that he used to be, guys, but he's got super reliable hands, runs really good routes, and he's just so good at finding those soft spots and zones. And Jayden Daniels just intrinsically trusts Zach Ertz out there, and that connection is certainly on full display. Also, another thing that I really liked is apparently B-Rob was bringing the juice, man. He was bringing the energy, had a couple of really nice runs today with the first-team offense against the Patriots defense, and he was probably the most successful running back on the Commanders at joint practice today. So that's really good to see that B-Rob is starting to get going there. But unfortunately, probably the worst unit on the Commanders today was probably their offensive line as a whole. Now, I will say this early into the preseason and into the training camp period of the process here, the defensive lines and the defense in general usually has the advantage. So the defensive line, I would say, probably won the day for the New England Patriots as a whole, and specifically the biggest weakness on the Commanders' offensive line was Nick Allegretti, who of course was this team's starting left guard last year. He's moving over to right guard with Sam Cosmi still dealing with his rehab, trying to get back. as soon as he possibly can. But Allegretti is going to be that stopgap option at right guard. Apparently, Christian Barmore, the star defensive tackle for the Patriots, was having a field day going up against Allegretti in practice today. But there were some bright spots for the Commanders on the offensive line today, as Laremy Tunsil was definitely the bright spot on the first team unit. There was a run play where he absolutely destroyed Keon White, where the reports were he was just sending him into the stands, I think was the word that was being used. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but he was moving Keon White, who's a really good run defender, by the way, a big body, completely moving him off the spot. He was good in pass protection. Tunsil looks like he was worth every bit of that trade that the Commanders made for him this offseason. And then perhaps Josh Conerly Jr., the rookie right tackle out of Oregon, probably had his best day of camp today. So I don't know if it's the competition aspect of things. I don't know if it's the heat of the battle sort of thing where he just turns it up to another level. But Conerly was probably the most impressive second-team offensive lineman for the Commanders today during practice. And he looks like somebody that's going to be able to get some good playing time in this preseason game on Friday night. And I'm really excited to see how he's going to do when the lights come on. So where are you guys at? Let me know down there in the comment section. What is your confidence level in the offensive line this year? It wasn't a fantastic unit last year. Jayden definitely elevated this group last year, but the addition of Laremy Tunsil and eventually getting Sam Cosmi back has me feeling good about this unit heading into the year. Let me know where you're at right now. Scale of 1 meaning no confidence to 10 meaning all the confidence in the world. Let me know what your confidence level in this offensive line is down there in the comments. Move on over to the defensive side of the ball, and Marshon Lattimore was back to his antics as an instigator out there, as he was in a couple of skirmishes, and he said after practice he wanted to set the tone. He wanted to let the Patriots know who's boss, and it was him and Pop Douglas, I think, a couple of times that were shoving back and forth. There was no full-on fights, but Lattimore was definitely letting the Patriots know that the Commanders are not going to back down from anybody. And then Pop Douglas, the slot receiver there in New England, one of my favorite slot receivers in the league, unfortunately got the better of Mike Sainristil in coverage today. Multiple receptions from Douglas with Sainristil in man coverage in the slot. And, I'm not worried about Mikey, guys. I don't want that to be misconstrued at all. Frozone has had an awesome camp to this point. He's been arguably the star of Commanders training camp. And honestly, Pop Douglas is just a really good player. That's what I'm chalking this up to. But also, Mike Sainristil did secure an interception during the 2-minute drill today on Drake May because of his teammate Bobby Wagner, who forced that 2-minute drill interception, tipped it up in the air for Mike Sainristil to go up and make the catch. So it's really good to see the former All-Pro here, Bobby Wagner, get it done once again, and just to show that he is still, even at his age, getting it done at a very high level, even in pass coverage, and that's kind of like where his biggest weakness is. At this point, Bobby Wagner's more of a really good run defender and blitzer as opposed to a coverage player, but the fact that he's out there making plays on the football with good instincts against a quarterback like Drake May, who's expected to have a second-year breakout season, I think that's really good to see if you are a Washington Commanders fan. Now, my final note on today's joint practice sessions has nothing to do with the practice itself. It's just that, this offense in general looks like it misses Terry McLaurin big time, because even though Jayden Daniels was getting the ball out, he was getting the ball to his guys, he was looking quote-unquote surgical today, there wasn't a whole lot of downfield receptions because there's not a lot of people getting open. Deebo Samuel is not a true number one wide receiver. I think we know that about Deebo at this point. He's more of a gadget-type player at this point in his career, and then having Noah Brown not being available right now either, that's two very important pieces of your wide receiver room not out there during this joint practice. And apparently Luke McCaffrey wasn't getting open much today. The other players that were kind of those supplementary receivers just weren't getting it done against this Patriots secondary. So according to the reports, it was mostly Zach Ertz. It was mostly checkdowns to the running backs from Jayden Daniels. And this team needs its number one receiver because, you put Terry McLaurin out there, and that's going to draw a lot of attention from opposing defensive coordinators in terms of how they attack the Commanders' offense this season. So hopefully this gets done soon and we can see Terry get out there on the practice field. I've been saying on the show for a while, guys, that my biggest worry about the Terry McLaurin situation right now is not that they're going to trade him or that he won't be on the team this year. My biggest worry is that he's going to be, this holdout's going to last all preseason long and he doesn't really practice, and then we go into the season with him completely rusty, not having a ton of practice time with Jayden Daniels, and it's a slow start, which the Commanders can't can't afford to do this year if they want to win the NFC East for the first time in the last several seasons. So hopefully they can get this done relatively quickly. I have like 99.9% confidence it will get done. It's just a matter of when and not if at this point, and hopefully that when is pretty soon. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Would you pay Terry McLaurin $30 million per season right now for him to return to practice as soon as possible? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. For me, I think that this would be a more than fair price tag to pay for Terry McLaurin. In fact, I'd pay him even more than this to get him on the practice field right now because you're not paying your quarterback. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. I think for a second-team All-Pro receiver, that price tag is more than fair. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here. Of course, tomorrow we're going to have our preview for the Washington Commanders game versus the New England Patriots. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Going to let you guys know the players to watch, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, go raise some hell.